All right, so I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight, but as promised, I said I would continue my story from if anybody watches my video from earlier where I requested that people just simply subscribe or whatever, follow my profile here. Again, my name is Nicholas Falcone. I am targeted with the directed energy system, and it's been a hell of a ride. I can go back in my history since the late 80s or the early 90s. I was recorded, but not overtly or covertly physically targeted. Maybe manipulated in some way through the system, but not overtly targeted. Excuse me one second. I know a lot of you guys out there have questions. A lot of you guys are wondering, why me? Did I do something? Did I not do something? And the answer to that is no, you didn't do anything. There was nothing you did or didn't do that would have you be targeted by this system. It is simply just random. The odd thing in my targeting, to speak for myself, is that in my protocol, because there's protocols that you're in, depending upon how the system wants to push you through, whether it's targeting you to spend a lot of money and go into debt, whether it's targeting you for a car crash, whether it's targeting you to lose your job, whether it's targeting you for mental health care, so on and so forth. For me, it was desocialize, isolate, and mental health care. So within that, I was in a relationship with my girlfriend for a long time, off and on, and it broke us apart. And it was the first time in a long time in my life that I was desocialized and by myself. So it actually helped my life out. So that's the odd part to this, is that the targeting of this system and not the directed energy, because that's physically hurting me, but the system to follow along its protocols, because it's unmanned, it's completely AI driven, and there is no human behind it. It's completely computerized. Because there's so many people targeted, it wouldn't make sense for them to allocate one human per one target and 24 hours a day. It's an automated computer system. At this point, they have it completely automated. So it desocialized me and gave me the best life I've ever known, except for it's physically harming me with the directed energy. If you watch my previous video, you'll see my eyes are all radiated, burnt out. That was just from last night because I decided to do this. I made one video, didn't even post anything at that point, and got smoked at nighttime, which is why you need to have, let me go grab something real quick. Which is why you need to have one of these, a radiation detector. You can get a cheap cell phone that has a magnetometer. It has to have a magnetometer. You get one of these, run it around your head. You can even get a lanyard and put it around your neck. So that way you can walk around with it. You check all of your anatomy because it can physically attack 100% of your anatomy. So, and then you get an app that is EMF application, electromagnetic frequency application. And that's when you can see when you're getting burnt. And then the computer will turn it off automatically once it sees that you have that in your hand. The computer will recognize that and it'll turn it off temporarily, and it'll give you at least a little bit of a reprieve. All right, so back to this real quick. I was covertly physically targeted. The first time was in 2006 to 2007. My first covert physical targeting, meaning directed energy harming my body that I remember, was my scalp. So on my scalp, let me see here. So here's my head. Marker's no good. Here's my head. Up here, where your brain is, your cranium. Let me put these up here. These are the books that I recommend you get to read. Sorry. They're by Dr. Robert Duncan, who unfortunately passed away last year of a heart attack. One is How to Tame a Demon, it's called. The other one is his second book, which is Project Soul Catcher. And that'll give you a rough idea of what you're dealing with here. But so my scalp, the directed energy was coming in and it was hitting my head and it hit my hair follicles. So when I would rub my hand on my head like this, I would go, damn, that hurts. Ow, that hurts. Unbeknownst to me, I'm sitting at my desk at work. I would start sweating, profuse sweating. So scalp, pain, and sweating. A lot of you are sweating at nighttime. That's because the system likes to bathe you in phase 1 radiation in the beginning, which is concentrated. And typically it'll be on your head. It'll be up here. So you're going to wake up with flushed red skin. You're going to wake up with burnt red eyes. You're going to wake up with a clogged nose. That's all from the energy entering your anatomy, swelling your tissues up and harming your skin on its way to the intra anatomy, meaning the interior anatomy. So you'll have sore skin, feeling like a first-degree sunburn. You'll have burnt red eyes. You'll have sore extracranial and intracranial tissue, meaning your scalp will be sore. You'll have, when you shake your head like this, it'll feel like you got into a minor car accident with your brain. And that's phase 1 of the radiation phases. So all that is essentially it's microwave energy. That's why it comes up on an electromagnetic frequency detector. And they already use this type of energy to overheat cancer. So this type of radiation that they use can be used to overheat cancer. It's called microwave ablation. So they target tumors inside of the human anatomy with something similar to this energy, and they overheat the tumors to kill the cells of the tumor. That's called microwave ablation. They use it to overheat cancer. But if you use it on a healthy cell, you will cause cancer and you will harm those cells. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 of your radiation will be 100 to 500 microteslas concentrated on individual pieces of you. So 100% of the human anatomy is targetable to the cellular level, meaning the computer system that is integrated in you, and I'll get back to me in a second, that is integrated into you has an entire 3D rendering of your anatomy and can individually, this has nothing to do with your brain or neural patterns, has to do with particulate matter that is assignable an individual number. So I'll do this real quick. So here's my eraser at. So if you feel your face get hit, obviously you guys know I'm Nicholas Falcone. So if you feel your, let's say, let's do this. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so you have a little stick figure dude, right? So let's say you felt this side of your face get burnt. Oh, you use a red piece of red there. So if you saw that side of your face get burnt, let's say, how would you think a computer can hit that side of your face separately? See, let's say that side of your face gets hit. You wake up and you go, ow, man, I have a real sore spot right here on the left side of my face. How do you think the computer would hit here and not hit your right leg? In the background computer system, they have a 3-dimensional rendering of a human anatomy that they programmed in computer code into the computer system to be able to target individual areas of your anatomy separately. Now watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now with just this basic mock-up here in 2D, I now have a more sophisticated system than I did when I just have this. When I just have this, my computer automated system doesn't know, or human intervene system, meaning human looks at an interface and there's different boxes that one says eyes, one says nose, you know, and then you just click it, and it does whatever you want it to when you go to attack. And you have different boxes for the attack, whatever kind of attack, burn, sting, stab, whatever type of attack you want to do. This is all physical pain, you know, physical manifestations. This energy here is carcinogenic that I'm talking about, meaning it causes cancer or anatomical deterioration in general. So now let's get back to this. So now that I have these numbered here, I can go, wow, let me see. I want to do 3. Number 3, I'm going to pick number 3. I'm going to pick attack, burn, and click. Now you have to figure this is an automated system, so it's just going to automatically choose what it wants to do to you. It has all of you, boom, 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 to the cellular level, cellular, to the cellular level. Ask James Giordano. He's a doctor. He made a speech at West Point Military Academy. Look up Dr. James Giordano, West Point Military Academy. So his name's Giordano. Giordano. His name is Giordano. James. Look up James Giordano, West Point Military Academy, and watch that speech. In his speech, he says, the system that is doing this, the people told him they can now affect the cellular level of individual organ systems, meaning they can hit your lungs separate from your heart, separate from your kidneys, separate from your liver, separate from your sex organs, separate from your skin, separate from your brain, your eyes. All of this is now separately affectable to the cellular level. And you already know that, being your eyes got hit, you feel your brain, you feel, you get a scab on your skin. I had a scab on my right leg. So this is a general 2D mock-up of what they have in 3D to the smallest part of you. So individual pieces of you can be affected with whatever effect or attack. It doesn't have to be an attack, it can be something positive. But it's not for us. But every piece of you is affectable to the cellular level. And it's not something I made up, it's something Dr. James Giordano told me in a speech. So now, with all of that, these are the radiation phases too, by the way. So phase 1 radiation, it's like building a house. What do you do first? You set up the foundation and you set up the framework. So the foundation and the framework, simultaneous with your first targeting of whether it's desocializing behaviors, mental health care, you're going to hit you with phase 1 energy to set the stage for the cancer areas in the future, if you're in the protocol that I'm in. So 100 to 500 microteslas, remember, on your EMF detector. So see how its background is 50, 55. No noise. This thing makes noises if it goes up. So it's 46 in the same spot. See how it just goes down? It's the same exact spot, but now it's 46, 49. So it'll even do it. That's why I say 5 to 20 microteslas in the phase that I'm in now. But phase 1, 100 to 500, because it's laying the foundation. It wants to go in hot and heavy in the early days, and it's concentrated. So it's a very small area. I know I'm covering a lot of stuff right now, but if you get these books, remember Project Soul Catcher, Robert Duncan, How to Tame a Demon, Robert Duncan, and James Giordano has books too. But let me erase this. And then I'll get back to this real quick, and then it's going to lead into my final thing, which is going to be me talking about what my current problems are. You already saw my eyes if you looked at the other video that I have. But yeah, this has been going on to me since 2006 to 2007. Then it stopped. Then it came back online about 2015, 2016. And that's when it went overt. But I'll get to that in a second. So the microtesla level of radiation here, we're going to go concentrated. So we go concentrated, phase 1. So concentrated radiation level, phase 1. Now, what this is the beginning, the first radiation that you receive is going to be concentrated. And when I say concentrated, this is what I mean. Again, here's our little dude. So now instead of, it's going to be a small area. Let's say that dot right there, that circle, again, we'll do red because it's bad for you. This is your brain right here. So the frontal lobe of your brain will produce a glioblastoma. So if they radiate your head, the profitable cancer they're looking to give you is called a glioblastoma. A glioblastoma. I'm assuming I spelled that right, so bear with me. But it's a tumor of the blast cells, and it is terminal. So now, phase 1, you're going to wake up sweating. Remember, what you're going to look for is profuse sweating, sore skin, sweating, sore skin, first degree burn. So if you wake up and you have burnt red eyes, you put burnt eyes. All right, so for me, this lines up with what I experienced in phase 1. When I became desocialized, isolated, and was going through the mental health battle until I got out of phase 1 of targeting. This is strictly phase 1 of the radiation phases. So now 100 to 500 microteslas will be blasted in to a small area like this because the more concentrated it is, the more activity that energy will have on the cells. And it will do more damage. Because if you take the same number and spread it out over a larger area, it's going to be less effective. So you're not going to get as much penetration, especially when it's coming in from the outside and it's not blasting from the inside. So you're not going to get as much penetration, and it's not going to do as much damage to the cells. So it's going to take longer, over a longer period of time, to have the desired outcome that the system is looking for. The system is looking to implant something like a glioblastoma if it's hitting the frontal lobe of the brain, because it's a terminal blast cell brain cancer. And I already know it's terminal because I researched it. I already know that you don't last that long, maybe a year, maybe 3 years, if you're like one of 5% of people that ever have a blast cell tumor in the brain. But so the concentrated, for me, it lasted a number of years, this 100 to 500. I have a bunch of videos where I'm in the gym getting blasted, eyes are burning, having pressure on the forehead. You'll have pressure. Wherever this phase 1 radiation is, you'll experience physical pressure. And then when you pick up your detector, you'll feel the physical pressure relieve and retreat. So for me, in the radiation phase 1, in the early days of my targeting phase 1, when it was just trying to mangle me with the mental health care, calling the ambulance on myself, that's a whole nother thing. I'm talking about radiation right now, but you're targeting phase 1 in my protocol. You're going to call the ambulance on yourself. You're going to be in the hospital. They're going to wrap you up, put you in the mental ward, give you a diagnosis, let you out, and it's no big deal, but you just got to go through it. The big deal is this. This is the big deal, because this is what will terminal your life. So I would wake up in the middle of the night, profusely sweating, sore skin, my face skin just sore, burning. I would have the burnt red eyes every morning, sore eyes, hurts to open them, hurts to move them. And yeah, I would have to get up and go about life because you can't give up. So then that went on for a long time. Then it went to phase 2. and I'll show you phase 2. Now, phase 2 is 1,000 to 1,500 microteslas on your detector. Now you're going to say, Nick, that sounds like it's like 10 to 3 times as high, right? And I'm going to say, yeah, you're right. But here's the thing with this, it's enveloping and enhancing. So all of these areas that look like this, that they targeted throughout your body, it's not just going to be there, it's going to be your lungs. I had my lungs targeted too. I woke up with dry cough. For about 2 weeks, it targeted my lungs directly. And with that, you'll have a dry cough. I'm going to use black. Dry cough. And you'll have, which is a mute cough. So when you go to cough, you're going to go, and it's not going to make a sound. What that is the radiation. Remember, it's microwave radiation, and it overheats and ablates cancer. So if you overheat a fluid-filled piece of your anatomy, what's going to happen? That's right, you're going to evaporate the fluid. And if you're not awake to do anything about it, it's going to dry your lungs out. And with lung cancer treatment, they radiate the lungs. And typically what happens in lung cancer treatment, usually you get what is called a dry or mute cough. So that's what happened to me. Over the course of about a week to 2 weeks, I was dry coughed, because it wants to set the stage for this radiation in your lungs to years later simultaneously manifest along with whatever areas it has continued to radiate through these phases. So that way you have a proliferation of cancer throughout a huge percentage of your anatomy. So you're going to have what is called a genesis or origin cancer, a main cancer, which will then be spread off into, what's that called? When it goes metastatic. So when a cancer goes metastatic, that means it metastasized into other areas of the anatomy. So it will go metastatic. My neighbor Marv in the back died of metastatic cancer. He got cancer, he got treatment. They burn his heart with the treatment. Then they said, Marv, it's in your spine now. And typically the intravertebral areas of your spine will be hit too, because what is an inoperable tumor? Typically intravertebral tumors are inoperable because they're too close to certain pertinent anatomy or important structures that they don't want to touch. So Marv back here gave up and said, just let me go home and let me die at home. So he died. My dad's friend Gus died. He died of bad colorectal cancer. He lasted only about a week or two, and that was it. And they gave him arsenic, and he ended up dying in a medically induced coma. So they arsenicked him. It burnt every single one of his organs, and that was it. He was dead. So besides that, they had no idea that they were being hit with this energy. So you get to phase 2, and phase 2 is an enveloping energy. So you're not going to be as apt to see, and when I say enveloping, I'll show you real quick. You're not going to be as apt to see these prototypical signs and symptoms. So you're not going to get the sweating as bad because it's not concentrated enough to throw your body into flux and try to thermoregulate. So enveloping means it's going to hit a larger part of your anatomy. Let's say all of this energy is going, that's why they bump it up higher, because they have a larger area to hit to enhance previously hit areas, the lungs. And it's just light enough so they don't want to do any overt, meaning noticeable signs and symptoms. At that point, they've already laid in enough of this energy that they can do this for the next couple of years and just continue to walk you into the terminal illness. So the enveloping means it's just going to enhance the areas that were already hit. And it's just giving you just that little bit more of infusion of radiation carcinogenic energy. So your cells were normal. Your cells will not be normal after enough of this energy goes in. And what they've already established, because they've done this to so many people, is how long to do each one of these phases and how much total microtesla energy is needed for different anatomy areas. So phase one may be different for the lungs than for the brain, and maybe for different cancers that you're trying to promote. So back to phase two real quick. This went on for, I would say, about a year. And then after that was, because you'll go out, you'll work, and only after about an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, will you start to notice your skin's a little flush. You're like, man, my skin's a little sore, a little red. Your eyes may be a little bit bloodshot, but not really too bad. And after it's been on for about 5 or 6 hours, because you forget to check your detector because you're caught up with regular life, because life goes on, will you notice that? And then that's it. You notice, oh, wow, 1,000 to 1,500. Maybe your testicles, or unfortunately for women, whatever, for you, ovaries, interior, testicles, prostate, all of it targetable, and preferably targetable. But I'll talk about that later. So now that goes on for about a year. It enhances these already hit areas, and then you have phase three. Phase three then is, again, I'm conflicted with whether it's concentrated or enveloping and enhancing. I would go enveloping and enhancing, but that is just to back off. Well, it may be concentrated too, one way or the other. But that is not the final phase, because the final phase is when you get diagnosed with the terminal illness, and then they go, that's phase four. Phase four is when you are diagnosed terminal, or you get your cancer diagnosis, and then I guess phase five would be terminal. So phase four is when you get your cancer diagnosis, meaning the energy then may continue and they may stop once you get your cancer diagnosis. But phase five is when your cancer that they treated comes back aggressive, and then they go ahead and they give you the terminal diagnosis and say, it has returned, it's more aggressive, we're going to try to help you. Quality of life as opposed to quantity of life. At that point, once you get the terminal illness, it's about trying to preserve quality of life and doing things that are important to you. So that's radiation phases. And for me, I'm going to erase this real quick. But for me, where I've been hit, I'm going to show you. Like I said, I'll show you what I fear and where I've been hit and what I fear from it. That's the three phases that I've been through so far. And you're going to say, Nick, you're doing pretty well. You're up. You got a whiteboard. You're talking. Okay. Well, I'm not. But, all right. So now, see, my nose is clogged. Anytime there's a little bit of energy at all, my nose gets clogged, because what happens is, I'll show you this real quick. And then I should break all of these down in videos. But what happens is when the energy goes in, let's say, here's your nose, right? There's your nose, whatever. Here's the nostrils. So behind that, up in here, you have olfactory tissue. Okay, so you have nose tissue and you have soft tissue in there. So what happens is when the energy when the energy goes in there, intracranial it's called. So it's kind of extracranial, but it's in your face, the cranium, your face here, or up here in your head is called the cranium. So when you have the energy go in here, what it does is it takes the tissue that is, let's say, that size, and when you take matter, which this is matter, and you infuse it into here, it then swells the tissue up and enlarges the tissue. Number one, because it irritates the tissue. So you have swelling due to irritation. And then number two, you have swelling due to infusion of something into a retained space. So if you have a circle and this is some sort of expandable material, like it's stretchable, it can stretch. If you take something and put it in here and this is already filled up, it's going to expand out this way. So that's why when the energy is entering the anatomy and then you get it to stop with your radiation detector, once it goes this way and it retreats because the computer turns it off, it does this. It shrinks down and returns to nearly normal size. But because it irritated the tissue and swelled it, because it's like slapping somebody in the face. Because it irritated that tissue, it's still going to be swollen. So you have that problem, and then it damages you because it's carcinogenic and it's bad for you, for your tissue. So that's why I can't breathe right now, and I might go grab my thing. And I apologize again. And if you guys have any questions, anybody continued to watch this, please feel free to ask down in the comments. I apologize. I just wanted to share this with everybody. You know, there's more videos to come, but I just feel so sad for everybody. I feel sad for myself. I feel sad for anybody out there that's suffering. I feel sad because I feel like there's potential in all humans. You know, we all have potential, and this computer and this system that is meant to destroy my life and harm me gave me potential and gave me everything that I am today. Everything. Gave me the opportunity to be the best person I've ever been in my life. And that's a complete accident. It doesn't mean to do that. It was an accident that it gave me and other people too the opportunity for us to finally be alone and finally go, what do I want to do with my life? The only problem is that this is continuing to happen, and it doesn't promote life. It ends your life. You know, none of this is positive. I can tell you that when I explain to you where my sore spots are, where I'm fearful that my problems are going to arise. And again, I'll break all of this down in secondary videos that are much shorter, but I just wanted to do this an entire video, just generalizing what I had on the screen here, generalizing what I had on the whiteboard. Give me 1 second. I apologize. This is what I have to do all the time. All right. So that should work in a couple seconds here. I'm going to erase this. So I taught myself real quickly while that's working. I taught myself dynamical systems mathematics and the background operational systems programming runs on dynamical systems mathematics and a recognition-based system. So the recognition-based system is nothing more than Google Photos, Amazon Photos. It recognizes previously uploaded definitions to environmental stimulus. So when you go red shirt in your Google Photos or your Amazon Photos or whatever Apple's version is, it will proliferate all the red shirt photos that you have a red shirt in. And that's through deep learning and recognition-based systems. And that's a whole nother video. But essentially, the math involved to this system that the simulation is based in runs off of dynamical systems. Infinitesimal calculus is just my way of explaining a part of the variables and how there's infinitencies related to them. And probability and statistics are the main ones. So let me erase this real quick. All right, so my targeted areas currently in the early phases was brain, and that encompasses extra and intracranial. So that's my brain, scalp, you know, intra and extra. So I'll do brain, intra, extra. And then, let's see, lungs. Obviously, it's intra because it's inside your anatomy. So, inside my chest wall, and let's see, mouth. And I would go mouth in red because that is a bad one. Currently, I'll elaborate on these. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have been radiated in your mouth and on your eyes and head and testicles and all kinds of stuff if you're a man. So mouth, red. Now mouth encompasses, let's see, the throat, the neck, lymph nodes, throat, lymph nodes, my tongue. Now this is all separate. They're all sore spots. My behind my ear. All right, so throat, lymph nodes, tongue, behind my ear. So, you know, my dad's in there right now with a hole in his neck because he had laryngeal cancer, and that's a whole nother story. You know, I'm not going to get into that right now, but the mouth is a bad spot. It's sore. And my eyes is another one. Eyes, bad. You know, circle that one in red. Everybody's had that. But in the beginning, it was the brain, the eyes, because that all encompasses here. When they hit you with energy in the brain, it transmits into the eyes. So it's not always directly in the eyes, but when they're hitting you with concentrated 100 to 500 microteslas during your phase 1 targeting, you're going to get transmissed energy down into the intraocular structure. So you're going to have intraocular irradiation, meaning there's a high probability that you're going to have intraocular cancer, meaning interior of your eye will probably have malign cells, and you will have a very rare condition known as intraocular cancer. It's not a spot that really gets irradiated a lot. It's more of a genetic probability that you would have intraocular cancer. I'm sure of that. I'm sure of that. Just like intra ear cancer, like interior of your ear. Like, come on, man, who's getting inner ear cancer? They're very, very, very rare cancers. But it doesn't matter because once you get cancer, you got cancer. You know, that's the great thing about cancer is that once you get it, you got it. And you can't go, I'm not supposed to have this cancer. How did I get this cancer? I'm not supposed to have this. I never did this or I never did that. And then they go, but you have it. So, but anyway, my eyes, as you saw the previous video, but the mouth has been, as of now, the worst spot. And what you'll feel is little pops. So let's say, and how I show that is this. Like in the old cartoons, they would have, if they opened up a soda, they would have the little bubbles do this type of thing, go up and pop with little lines and stuff like that. So think of an effervescent bubble in a soda when it comes up and it pops, 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 and you're looking at it and you see the pops like that. That's what this energy feels like in the interior of your mouth, in your throat. And then you will feel residual pain called fibrosis. So after these pops, pop, 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 and you'll feel the pops in your anatomy too, not just in the back of your throat, not just on your tongue, not just, you'll feel it all over your anatomy. Now, if they hit you enough times with this energy, it leads to energy leads to fibrosis. So fibrosis, if you look that up, is microscopic scarring of soft tissue and anatomy. So I'm not sure if you can get fibrotic bone or osteocytes. I don't know. But energy leads to fibrosis, leads to malignment. Malign. So malignment. So energy leads to fibrosis, this carcinogenic radiation energy leads to fibrosis, leads to malignment, leads to cancer, leads to necrosis. So I'm going to erase this. Everybody knows I've been recorded, and so have you, since the late 80s or the early 90s if you were alive. Leads to cancer, leads to necrosis. So the necrosis is just a byproduct of the cancer. So cancer, again, as we know, is malformation and half-dead cells. So the normal healthy cell looks like this, right? And then a cancer cell could probably look like this. So you see normal healthy cells, they're round, they're healthy, but when you get cancer involved, from energy to fibrosis to malignment to cancer to necrosis, you have this. And dead tissue is just cancer. So a lot of these cells will die off from apoptosis, it's called. So apoptosis. Apoptosis is pre-programmed cellular death, meaning this cell is smart. We have smart cells. So some of those cells, when they feel like they're operating inappropriately, they commit suicide. So some of this necrosis can come from apoptosis. And then cancer in and of itself is just dying tissue then, and partially operable cells. So what happens is regular mitosis will lead to this. And obviously you have mitosis, which is just cellular division, will lead to that. And this turns into that. And this obviously will then lead to that. So if this thing doesn't lead to that and then go through apoptosis, you're going to have a big tumor. Big tumor. You can have healthy tumor and non-healthy tumor. A healthy tumor is called a benign tumor, like a lipoma. A non-healthy tumor, a necrotic cancer tumor, is called, glioblastoma. All of these crazy cancers. So when you get energized with the radiation energy, it turns to fibrosis, which is microscopic scarring of the tissue, which is what I have here behind my jaw. I'm going to show you here. So mouth, here is my jaw on both sides. So that's my jaw on both sides. Hopefully you guys can see this shit. And back here on the back part of my jaw here, right here on both sides, has been irradiated, and it's sore and it's not going away. And the lymph nodes under here are the bad thing, because typically with lymphatic node cancer, you're looking at stage 2+. So not many people just have straight lymph node cancer. Typically, it's a transmission of a genesis cancer into the lymphatic nodes, prototypically underneath the jaw here, although you do have lymph nodes right here adjacent to your crotch. So under here you have lymph nodes all around under here, behind the ear. So this is a good spot for the computer to irradiate because it can do two things at once. It can remove your ability for this connective tissue that operates your jaw going up and down to work, because they may have to resect the connective tissue due to the irradiation here, and the lymph nodes that are here can be irradiated. Also, you have a possibility of transmission if you get connective tissue cancer there, transmission into the bone of the jaw. And the bone of the jaw is called an osteocyte. So osteo is bone. Site is cell. Osteocyte, meaning bone cell. Osteocyte. Ah, shit. So now for me, what I'm worried about, this is what I was talking about, what I'm worried about is having a cancer behind both ears in the connective tissue. And my neck was radiated years ago. All of my lymph nodes blew up because of the infusion of energy. They have since shrunk, but there is residual pain due to fibrosis of the soft tissue. So I'm in the fibrosis phase. And this could last from months to years to forever. So let's see here. Let me go grab there we go. Fibrosis can last from months, years, forever, if it stays in the fibrosis phase. Because think of scar tissue. If you've ever been scarred, you have scar tissue, or you have, a scar on the top of your skin, that's scar tissue. What do you have to do that? You have to resect it. And then you'll still have a scar because you had to incise around that, and then you have to suture that. So removing that doesn't always remove the scar, because on the surface anyway. But if you have scar tissue underneath, you can resect that, and then you'll just have a minute scar on the surface. But if you have to resect the connective tissue of your jaw, how's your jaw going to go like this, and how are you going to talk? And especially in the interior of the throat and the tongue where I've been hit. So I got eyes radiated, I got mouth radiated, got my lungs radiated, got my brain inside and outside radiated, my scalp radiated. I get individual pieces of my anatomy radiated. You'll feel individual pops all over your body. And again, that tells you if you have a pop here and a pop there and a pop here and a pop there, whether it's inside or outside, that tells you that there is an individual enumeration for that spot. How would it hit that spot right here unless there was individual numbers programmed into the computer so it automatically knows with a 3D rendering, if you remember, a 3D rendering of your anatomy, that it can target individual structures. So James Giordano, West Point. Look up James Giordano, West Point Military Academy speech, and you'll see him talking to the cadets about this entire system. That's it. I want to thank everybody for listening. Well, let me get back to this real quick. So 2015, I had it turn on. Might as well talk about this real quick. That's my radiation talk. I'll summarize all this stuff in subsequent videos. I apologize if anybody got tired of listening, but I'm talking about stuff that's going on with you too. This isn't just happening to me. It's happening to you too. I'm fearful that the energy is going to turn into fibrosis, to malignment, to cancer, to necrosis. So real quick, I hear the chatterbox. So what you have is overt and covert. The only difference between overt and covert targeting is something called a chatterbot or box. If you read James Giordano's book, he calls it a chatterbox. So hearing what the computer would normally cycle into your subconscious level when it's controlling you through the simulation of life is the only difference between overt and covert. So in about 2015, 2016, maybe late 2016 was the first time I went overt in my life. I went from being recorded and then minutely physically harmed to overtly targeted and put into a phase 1 radiation and a phase 1 of targeting protocol, which is desocialize, isolate, and mental health care. So phase 1 of overt targeting, let's see what this looks like. Yeah. Let me use the black. Black's always good, I guess. So phase 1. So phase 1 of overt targeting for me and in my protocol, which was desocialize, isolate, mental health. This is typically reserved for people that have boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. So they're going to cause marital problems, they're going to cause relationship problems, and typically they're going to have one or usually one of the parties manifest mental health issues, whether you're hearing voices or whatever it is, you're just acting weird. So that causes you to desocialize and isolate. So you're going to isolate inside of your house, your apartment, wherever you are, and then you're going to desocialize, meaning you're not going to go out and participate in normal socializing behaviors. So with that is going to be mental health. You're going to have to go to the hospital, call the ambulance, you're going to have to get a diagnosis. So this is phase 1 of overt targeting, which lines up with phase 1 of radiation. So around that time was the first time I heard the chatterbox, and I was like, what is that? What the hell is that? It's not syncing up with the TV. What is it? What are those voices? And one day laying in bed, it happened. So, yeah, that was it. Just started hearing random shit in my head. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And it took a few years for me to find out that this was what was going on. But obviously, it ruined the relationship I was in. Thankfully, though, because I have the best life I've ever known, except for being radiated through it, causing me physical problems in the future. But it caused me to desocialize, isolate, and then get mental health. So I got 302 twice. 302 times 2. They said I was bipolar one time, which is all they do, They just say that. It's not just you're bipolar. You just got to get the diagnosis. Once you get 1 or 2 diagnoses or 1 or 2 302s, and if you had a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife, once you've separated from them and they're doing their own thing and you're away from them, the computer will stop phase 1 of the targeting. It'll let you get back to a quasi-normal life, let you go back to work, let you get some money. But what it will continue to do is to radiate you. It will continue to physically harm you. It'll back off, though. It won't be as noticeable, and it will then reduce to phase 2 of the targeting with the radiation. It won't be burnt red eyes every single night. After a little while, it'll start to go like this with the radiation, but it will continue. So got the 2 302s. The second time I got 302'd, I got released on ADD, attention deficit disorder. They inconvenienced my life at the hospital, wrapped me up, and the psychiatrist there said, this is how I know there was no overt or covert manipulation by the supercomputer on them that time. Because the psychiatrist said, why are you here? You were just here. Why are you here? So a conflicting diagnosis was rendered the second time with attention deficit disorder, landed me from bipolar disorder. He said, get out of here. So he released me. That was it. Never got officially adjudicated 302. Nothing. It was just to separate and destroy the relationship, to desocialize and isolate, and then get me the mental health write-ups so that way it could be used against me by my ex-girlfriend with my daughter in question. And that was it. So all of this from 2016 has been consistent, but the radiation petered off because in this phase 1, they implant so much radiation in you while they're doing all this crazy shit with mental health and sleep deprivation and burning your skin and doing crazy shit, that they don't need to keep that up the entire time. They want you to get back to work. They want you to be blinded by the idea of working, paying bills. They want you to get into credit debt, spending money, wasting money, instead of investing money and thinking about things. So that's what they do. So this whole time here, they're implanting you with more radiation. That way, in the future, eventually, everybody is free of cancer until they have cancer. That's what you need to realize. Everybody is alive until they're dead. And then eventually, cancer. You get cancer or a heart attack or a stroke. And then some people, not the protocol I'm in, commit suicide. Suicide. Unfortunately, most people that are targeted with this system will be covert instead of overt. They'll never know. They'll just end up with cancer and go, my God, I got cancer. And they'll never know. What can I do about that? I was covertly targeted before I was overtly targeted. So that's it. I appreciate everybody listening. I'll post this up, and I just want everybody out there to know, this is my last thing I'll say. I always say this when I make my mountain climbing videos, is that if you watch this far, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This has been a struggle. This has been